pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll. Mrs. Shumway.
Yes.
Mr. Gertz.
Yes.
Mr. Warndorf.
Yes.
First item on the agenda is to approve or amend the meeting minutes. First one would be for the special board meeting on April 11th, 2015. Call the roll. Mrs. Shumway.
Vote yes.
Mr. Gertz.
Yes.
And Mr. Warndorf. Next is to approve the minutes from the April 14th regular board meeting.
Seconded.
Mr. Gertz. Mrs. Shumway.
Yes.
Mr. Warndorf. Last but not least are the minutes from the April 22nd special board meeting. Mrs. Shumway.
Vote yes.
Mr. Gertz.
Yes.
And Mr. Warren.
Yes.
All right, next on the agenda is Volunteer of the Month, West Geauga Interactive Club.
You all want to come up because I know you're here.
Thanks for coming. I want to thank them for coming. It was a quick trip over here as school got out for them, so we were kind of stalling a little bit to make sure that they got here on time. The West Geauga Interact Club is recognized this month for its year-long support of Geauga Park District. Students embrace the inaugural Fall Festival, serving with enthusiasm as costume characters and assisting with seasonal activities, and assisted with Mistletoe Market, providing valuable assistance to the event's young visitors. February's highly successful Frozen Fest was benefited by Interact members who braved the snow and cold to volunteer. The club also connected with our county's maple sugaring tradition by volunteering time at our annual SAPSA Rising Sundays. By contributing to these successful park events, club members have reflected on their school in a very positive light. Their commitment is appreciated and valued, and their time is especially valued because there are certain things in life you cannot get back, and your time is one of them. So I'd like to thank you all very, very much.
All right, next we have a certificate of appreciation for Fairmount Minerals. Is anyone here from Fairmount yet?
Maybe we should wait.
Okay, we
Bill,
might have to wait.
let's wait, we're not here yet.
Next on the agenda is a presentation by one of our county commissioners, Skip Claypool, and I'll let you take it from here, Skip.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to come here today, and thank you for all the citizens showing up today. Let me say this going in, I'm not here as a county commissioner today. I'm here as a citizen of this county. I'm not representing the county commissioner's office in any way, shape, or form. But since moving to Geauga County, and I moved here specifically because I like Geauga County, I have an interest in ensuring that the values that I moved here for, the rural atmosphere and so on and forth, are maintained. And I think you'll be surprised to see that we have things that we agree on in my presentation. You mind if I say this like that? You may notice that I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to speaking in front of a large crowd like this.
I'd like to see you for us.
Point of order, please. I have an instructions that citizens get 3 minutes during the public presentation. We have requested on occasion to be put on the agenda and turn down. I'm curious as to why
to the Western Reserve property, correct?
Yes, let me, if you don't mind interjecting, I don't want to say responding to the board because I don't represent the board in any shape or form. But there was a presentation made by the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, which presents one side to a discussion. And so I asked the board to offer a different side to that discussion. If you have, I'm sure if you have topics that are part of a conversation that's going on here with the board, that they would
And for
entertain.
a time, we do have such a conversation going on, and we've been limited to 3 minutes. And we have been rejected as people to be put on the agenda. I want to know why these things. Why there is this thing.
Well, you know, maybe we could address that and you all could do a presentation if you were going to be the principal
We have
speaker.
asked and have been rejected.
And I think we've been addressing the issues of Protect Geauga Parks for well over a year at every single board meeting. So we could go ahead and take the time.
We have never been allowed on the agenda.
Okay, I can put you on the agenda for next month.
How long will we have?
The same amount, skip that, didn't
Do
you?
you have a specific topic? I mean, I'm kind of curious what the topic might be. I came with a very specific topic. Do you have a
Oh,
topic?
Very specific.
What's that?
We have a very specific.
And can you inform the public as to what the topic is?
The changes in the bylaws that have made recreation a secondary.
Yeah, Skip, we'll go ahead and have you specifically address. Skip's addressing one thing today, and that's the Western Reserve Conservancy. The idea is not for people to present for hours. It's a 10-minute clip and that's it. Okay?
We get the same time next month. Thank you very much.
On one topic.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. Do I have something to change? Does this change the slides? This will change the slides, okay? Okay. So as was mentioned, I'm here to talk about conservancies, not specifically the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. It is the concept of conservancies in general. See how this works. We oftentimes hear about conservancies. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a few things. And how long do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Wow. Okay. I'm going to move very quickly then, because I don't know if I can get this all in 10 minutes. First of all, I think that there's room for agreement. I want to talk about some basic principles. I'm going to talk fast, since I only have 10 minutes. And I'm going to talk about some of the attributes of conservancies that I think are an issue. And we can then have a discussion about that, I suppose. John, why don't you page that forward for me? There we go. Okay, let's agree on this. And I don't think I'll have disagreement in this room. If you disagree with the statement, then let me know. Conservation is important. I think all of us would agree that conserving property, conserving wildlife, having clean air, clean water is an important thing. Anybody here disagree with that? Good. I didn't think I'd see any disagreement on that. I brought a chart with me today that has some of the acreage in Geauga County. We have a lot of acreage in Geauga County that is under a protected status. And so we have Akron, only 23,000 acres, part of the reservoir that's in kind of protected status. We have the county owns property, 13,000, county and townships, 13,000 acres. We have park property in the neighborhood of 10,000. And we have a number of private conservancies, the National Conservancy being one, that owns property, and they protect it. The question gets to be, who best protects property? And in my world, I grew up on a farm. It is private owners that best protect property because it's in their best interest to protect the property. Go ahead. Those were just a couple of property owners. I have more who are interested in protecting property. Land conservation. There's a lot of organizations that do land conservation. I own private property. I manage my property, I manage the wildlife on my property, I make sure that there's nothing being damaged on my property when I own it. There's lots of us that are in the conservation game, so to speak, and some others. I contribute dollars to Ducks Unlimited, to the Turkey Club, to lots of other organizations that purchase property. And by the way, as a hunter, there's probably no larger group that are in the conservation game. And why is it? Because we're consumers of the natural product out of that. Go ahead. What's wrong with conservation easements? Well, and I'm going to give you some perspective on this. It destroys private property rights. It destroys choice, and I'm talking about choice for our future and choice that exists within this board. This board has choices to make every day to do business, and it wrecks their choice, process for choice. It reduces property values. That comes out of the conservancy documents. I'm not saying that. I can reference multiple conservancy pamphlets and so forth that says this. I think it undermines constitutional values, and I'm going to show you why. And it's part of a bigger plan, which is very concerning to me. Go ahead, Jim. Let's define some terms. First of all, private means belonging to or using an individual. It's a person. Private property right is a legal right in that property. Protection means the state of being kept from harm. Control meaning having power over something. Go ahead, John. Let's talk about the term tyranny for just a second. We don't talk about this enough. And tyranny is, I'm going to use the last line, the oppressive or harshly limiting condition. And I'm going to stress and underline limiting condition. Perpetuity. I don't know how many people in here understand the term perpetuity? Forever. Okay, perpetuity in forever and ever. And a land trust is an organization formed under the state, whatever the state happens to be. Normally it's a nonprofit, 501c3, in the case of a land trust, the purpose is for holding trust in land in some way, shape, or form, an interest in the land. Go ahead, Jen. So, for me, principles in the decision process are important. When I went into the service, I said an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. When I became a commissioner, I said an oath to uphold and defend the principles embedded in the Constitution of the United States. Does anybody in this room not value the constitutional values that this country was founded on? If so, let me see your hands. Oftentimes, okay, we got a gentleman back here who doesn't really appreciate our Constitution. That's good. I mean, we can agree or disagree on that. I happen to value the basic principles and the values embedded in the Constitution. Go ahead, Joe. One of which, in the Ohio Constitution, is this. And that is that we have the right to life, liberty, and acquiring, possessing, and protecting property. That's our constitutional right. I, as an elected official, have an obligation because I said an oath, and for me an oath is an obligation. It's a responsibility to do that. If I didn't want to live to doing this, I shouldn't be an elected official. I shouldn't accept a position in which I say the oath that I'm going to do this. And so,
giving you 2-minute warning.
you're kidding me.
No, come on.
All right, moving on. Those property rights, by the way, are, and if there's any attorneys in the room, are anterior to the Constitution, which means they pre-existed the law. Go ahead, John. The conservancy easement is a contract entered in between two individuals, that one being the landowner and the other one being the conservation or the trust. The key concept behind that agreement is that the owner's rights are created subservient to whoever the land trust happens to be. You've now, as a landowner or property owner, if it's the park, your rights, your ability to manage that property are subservient to this other organization. Go ahead, John. They're in there forever. And as we've already said, it lowers property values, it lowers real estate tax rates, it lowers income to the communities, it impacts mineral rights oftentimes. It is not, and I want to underline this, a transparent organization. This board is transparent and accountable to people in this room. And we need to appreciate the fact that these guys are willing to sit here at this table and be accountable to you, to take your questions, to take your input, and so on and so forth. A 501c is not transparent. I can't make a public information request unless they choose to respond to that organization and expect under the laws in the state of Ohio that they're obligated to respond to that request. That's a problem from an accountability standpoint. Go ahead, John, move on. There are very specific financial considerations, obligations within trust, and I wish I had more time to talk about this. Go ahead, John, move on. I'm going to talk about one scenario. I have a couple of scenarios. I'm going to talk about one. The financial transactions that happen within these land trust activities are, from my perspective, questionable. Here's one example. This is a hypothetical situation. Party A, I'm an individual, I own 282 acres, I'm approached by the Conservancy to do something, in this case, make a purchase. Party A gets an appraisal, the Conservancy makes an offer, in this case, a different from the appraisal rate, and then Party A takes that offer and is able to also make a donation, a charitable donation to that 501c for the remainder. And so they get benefits on both sides. They get a financial benefit, which by the way they would normally pay tax on, and they get to avoid the tax gain based on their charitable donation.
Okay. Can you say it? Or
Thank you so much for sharing.
And I was going to say, if there are any other questions.
The only comment that I'll make, and I'll with your approval, based on the opportunity that the Western Reserve Land Conservancy had to make their case the other day, this is not really an opportunity for a counterbalance to their argument, which I was prepared to make. And so I hope that you would appreciate the fact that there's a lot more that this board needs to hear in terms of conservancies. The conservancies, or the easements that you have on properties, limit your ability to properly address the needs of our citizens. And I would ask you to weigh that. I would love to meet with you individually, talk to you more about the details behind this, because I am of the belief that easements undermine your ability to do your job.
I hope you can stay for the rest of the board meeting, because I think we're going to discuss some of this in some of the upcoming material.
I do have some material. Anybody's welcome to this.
I would like to ask you if you could please to give us a copy of your slides, please.
As a resident, are we allowed to request that this presentation be extended so that we can have full exposure to the information? I mean, this is an important topic.
Okay.
As a landowner, I would be very interested in hearing this.
Okay, you know what, rather than have you come back, let's just finish it. How long did you think your presentation was going to run?
About another 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
Could citizens offer the,
Let's see if we can keep it to 10, and let's see if we can keep it to a presentation rather than question and answer. Okay.
Okay, I'll move as quickly as I can. And
Okay.
I do have some handouts, anybody else.
Just because it's going to be for.
And so I had planned to be this a little more leisurely, but so, and I apologize for the
That's
abrupt
okay.
nature of going through this. So if you'll go through that particular slide, you kind of get the sense that there's something that should be questioned in the financial transactions, oftentimes. And by the way, one point that I'll underline here is oftentimes your tax dollars are being used for these transactions, through Clean Ohio, through the Department of Agriculture, through various other foundations, the Gun Foundation and others. Your tax dollars are used to transact these situations, which I think undermine the property rights associated with the property. Go ahead, John, next slide. So this is an actual situation that happened here in Geauga County. I've removed the names to protect the innocent. I just want to make one point, actually 2 points. On this particular piece of property, for anybody who thinks you're protecting farmland, this is a piece of farmland that was impacted by an easement. I don't know how many farmers are in this room. I'm a farmer by, not currently, but as a child. And this particular piece of property, in perpetuity, in order to be farmed, has to be farmed under a conservation plan, under a farming plan. If you have to go back to somebody as a farmer to ask for permission for anything you do on that property, I ask you who owns that property. You have to ask for permission to do any of the following: build structures, or make new recreational areas, or build a fence line, or put in a pond, anything as a farmer that constrains your ability to be able to react quickly to the marketplace and so forth, I ask the question, is that really, truly, something that you can farm on that property? I've done a huge amount of research, which I would invite anybody to have access to. These are contracts out of the recorder's office on various easements on both public and private properties. I ask you to look at these if you have any interest and see the kinds of constraints and limitations imposed upon those who accept an easement. And you'll find that those limitations are, in many cases, very difficult to operate around. Go ahead, John. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit. As a public official, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the people in this county to maintain certain things. To maintain and protect the value of the property, protect and promote its best use, protect the interest of future generations relative to those in the county, and to plan for the future. And if you have an easement on the property, which means you have a partner on that property, and your rights are subservient to that partner, and that partner is not accountable to the public, then I ask you the question, is that a good situation? Go ahead. I'm not going to dwell on some of these slides. You got the concept in this. If the public interests are controlled by a third party, then I have to ask the question, is this board free to make the right kinds of choices for the citizens of this county if their ability is subservient to a contract which is managed by somebody else who's not accountable? So that's just the question. Go ahead, John. So I have to ask this also, or at least introduce this concept. There are those who are setting policy in this country and in areas that are not local policies. This particular thing came out of a United Nations comment, and it talks about land being an asset that needed to be controlled. The point being is sometimes policymakers are operating off of values and principles that aren't necessarily our values and principles. They may be set by a more global organization. You may be comfortable with that, I'm not. Go ahead, move forward. That comes back down to my earlier comment about the constitutional rights versus some other sets of rights. Understanding that it's legal rights of property we're talking about. And just to underline something, I used to do a lot of international travel. I spent a lot of time in communist China. Communist China, you don't own property. That property is controlled by the Communist Party. I didn't like what I saw there. And I don't like what I'm seeing with these easements because there's some similarities. Continue. This is the plan for us, created out of an organization that created a regional plan. You'll notice that there is an interest to increase parks and conservation land by a considerable amount. And so you have to ask the question, and I'm all about conservancy, I love conservancy and all that kind of stuff, but at what cost? If for every piece of property that comes out of the private situation and enters into the public situation, number one, you have to pay for it, you have to support it, these guys have to manage it, and at what cost? Who in Geauga County will be able to afford to live here if everything on this map, if 50% of this map becomes Geauga Park System, who will be left to pay for that? The answer is only those with the financial ability to pay for it. In other words, the wealthy. Just file that away. Just a thought. Moving on. This was part of the plan that was created for us. This is the before picture. Go ahead, John. This is an after picture. This is a 40-year plan. The 40-year plan, notice what Geauga County looks like. If you think about all the various organizations who are having influence over our county, and this is not my slide, this is their slide. A slide that was produced by a group of planners that are saying, well, we're not happy with Geauga County and the nature of Geauga County, so we're going to create a different future for it. And how are we going to do that? They have various tools, one of which happens to be a 501c, which is not accountable to people, which has money, your tax dollars, to use to incentivize people to do other things. Go ahead, John. This is, again, underlines the plan that is outside of our county. This is not produced by our county. We rejected this as it was going through the process, but this is the plan for our county. Go ahead. So where to from here? Conservation? Yes. Everybody in this room, I think, would agree that conservation is a very good thing. We all want conservation. I want my kids and grandkids to be able to experience farming and farmland and areas to go hunt and places to go and walk in the park and do all that kind of stuff. But we also need to protect, I think, the values and the principles that this country was founded on, so that my kids and my grandkids can enjoy the same future or the same choice in the future that I've enjoyed. I have the right to buy a piece of dirt, to live on that dirt while I'm alive, and to make choice and to protect it and to enjoy it. When I'm dead and gone, I should transfer those rights to the next generation. It's their opportunity to make choice. It's not our right to steal their choice away from them. That's my feeling on that. And so it's our kids' future we're looking at for, and that's the reason that I'm here today. I feel strongly that they should have a future that includes what the Constitution in Ohio says, the right to life, liberty, and in the U.S. Constitution, to pursue happiness. So thank you. I appreciate it. I rushed through this. I apologize for that. Anybody have any questions?
John, if you have questions, if you and Skip can address them after the meeting, please. I think we're going to not do a question and
I
answer too.
understand, but the only thing is, last month, when there were people gave their views directly after the speaker talked and asked questions then too. So can we have more than 3 minutes later?
You can do
Okay.
later.
Okay, thank you.
We'll open it up.
Okay.
Really, it's 4 o'clock. I'd like to get through. Can we go back to the volunteer? Yeah, the park board business would be nice if we addressed that today.
Folks from Fairmont Minerals here.
Josh.
This is the kind of award that I enjoy, because it means so much to the park board itself. But it states, Geauga Park District recognizes Fairmont Central as a partner in conservation for the generous donation of 2,500 native trees and a team of more than 15 employees who volunteered 80 hours to further the ongoing restoration and reservation of Orchard Hills Park. In other words, they came and they planted 2,500 trees. So you are? I'm Bill Gertz. Who are you? Josh. Oh, Josh. Thank you so much.
Let's not forget the park employees who helped us out, because we have several there as well.
Paul, do you want to say anything?
It's been a wonderful partnership with Fairmount over the years. They've donated, this isn't the first time, I'm sure it's not going to be the last, but it's certainly appreciated, and lots of good restoration work and trees being planted over the years.
We've got a long way to go yet to restore that entire park. So thank you so much. We sincerely appreciate it.
Very well.
All right, presentation of financial statements, Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start the month off. The month of April, we began with the general fund, $7,700,000.